Our scripture reading this morning is from the Gospel according to Matthew. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountainside, and after he sat down and the disciples had gathered around, Jesus began to teach them. Blessed are those who are poor in spirit. The kingdom of heaven is theirs. Blessed are those who are mourning. They will be consoled. Blessed are those who are gentle. They will inherit the land. Blessed are those who show mercy. They shall be shown mercy. Blessed are those whose hearts are clean. They will see God. Blessed are those who work. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for justice. They will have their fill. Blessed are those who show mercy to others. They will be shown mercy. You are fortunate when others insult you and persecute you and utter every kind of slander against you because of me. Be glad and rejoice, for your reward in heaven is great. They persecuted the prophets before you in the very same way. Ancient words from our tradition for today's understanding.
Well, I think I need to start with a confession. We are Presbyterians, and that is that as Daniel and I we're thinking about this Advent season, what would be a good theme for it? It seemed to both of us that sort of an unspoken theme of being spiritual through the Trump years, the Christmas through these kind of brutal times. And we weren't really going to say that, but I think you'd figure it out pretty quickly, probably, and it may be more charitable to do that. I do want to say, if you're conservative, I'm not criticizing being conservative, which is equally as good as being liberal. If you're a Republican in Texas, we may need to talk, because I think it takes some distinguishing between conservative economic policies and the constant attack of, populations that live in danger that has become popular. I just don't think somebody who's supporting Trump at this point should feel comfortable in a church. Some of the most dedicated supporters of these policies, I'm not talking about the person, the policies, are evangelical Christians. And, economics is important. That's out of my scope. I don't understand all of that kind of stuff. But to let racism, sexism, xenophobia, and poisoning the earth itself pass so you can have more money in your wallet, I don't think that's something that should go unreflected upon. So we will be focusing on Christmas, but my heart is with the teachers who are seeing the children being made afraid. My heart is with the social workers, with the people who are on the front lines of the struggle for humanity right now. And so I'm hoping Christmas will be a healing time for those of you who this is a brutal time right now. So that's kind of an upbeat beginning. I want to start, really a happy-go-lucky thing. But what's important, I think, is to realize is Christmas is the happiest, most peaceful time of the year. And it happened in a brutal political time, and that's a part of the story, which tells you that we can feel peaceful and happy in times just like this. Right? King Herod was not a nice guy. So the religion was born out of times like this. And people lived in dignity They lived for humanity, but they had to look at things different. Did I mention that 53% of Republicans in a poll last week said they felt that Trump was better than Lincoln as a president? So, and then I realized, okay, the Emancipation Proclamation, it's like, okay. People are leaving the church, and sometimes with very good reasons. I ran across a woman who's an atheist. She, her name is Jennifer Ferner. Really sensitive. It really touched my heart to hear her. She was not theistic, and she wanted to come back to church. So she goes to a church. She said, I came to give thanks, but the chapel asks me to kneel, to pray, to light a candle, and that no longer feels authentic to me. How does one give thanks outside of religion? Now, obviously, for people who are theistic, that's an easier question to answer, and I'm not questioning if that is your answer. But is the love of Jesus big enough to take in undocumented people, pro-choice women, LGBTQ people, and non-theists? Cannot non-theists be as loving, as ethical, as Christ-like as anybody else on the planet? This feels to me like a woman like that. She said, I thank my friends, family, strangers who make my coffee, but I'm also thankful for a goodness that can't be assigned to mere mortals. A goodness I feel that is bigger than we are. Now, to her, that's not a being, but it feels to me like we're on the same page with that. In the Christmas story, I think it is much deeper and more profound than reducing it down to a historical fairy tale. That something happened literally. I think what makes Christmas so wonderful is it's both mystic and activist. It's a message of social justice, yes, but it's primarily about a peace and a love that spills over into social justice. The people in the story are loving people, they're kind people. So when you hear the scripture, or when we do the song, O Come Emmanuel, what's interesting is Emmanuel means God is here. So what does it mean to say, O come Emmanuel? Right, if God is already here, why are we asking for God to come here? And I think what Isaiah is doing is giving us these kind of parables, like Jesus taught in parables, that surprise us out of our assumptions. And we'll get back to that in a moment, but these are the words of people who are living in very bad political times. O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here, until the one of God appears. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to thee, O Israel. Now, what we know about the New Testament is that Jesus wasn't a Messiah like the people were waiting for. He didn't overthrow the Roman government. But someplace in our heart realizes something even more important than that happened. And that may be important for us. To stand by as the earth gets poisoned is torture for a heart that's still alive. So what happens is many of us go numb. Right? It's just too horrible to think about. We don't feel like there's anything we can do. So that idea that there's something dawning is very important. The imagery that we're going to see in Christmas is about a dawn of a new age. It's been spiritualized. It's both political, where universal human rights are talked about. All people have worth. But it's also something we can live, and we can live it in peace and live it in joy. That's very important, I think, to realize that. What the people of the time wanted was a good bully to come along and beat the bad bullies. And I think there are a lot of people politically that are looking like that. You may disagree with everything else, but I think we could all probably agree that we see the other side as bullies, right? And it's way too popular to believe that if we just overpower the other side, that everything's going to be okay. We have to discover that Trump is not the problem, but an expression of the problem. The whole system, the whole idea of an empire that has 800 bases all over the world. The whole idea that Obama wins the Nobel Peace Prize and he dropped something like 28,000 bombs this last year, we don't even count that as a war. That it's something bigger than that. And what the Christmas story meant at its time is there's a way out of that. You can't get in control of the whole culture, but you can be an ambassador for the new age. You can live that, you can sing it, you can speak it, you can talk it. Winning or losing is not something we're in control of, but wouldn't it be wonderful to have a path of nobility that you could dedicate the rest of your life to? Win, lose, or draw. I think that's the promise of Christmas. Western religion went off on a salvation kick. And what's being talked about is sort of in between salvation, which affects the whole world, and enlightenment, which is about the human heart. We need both of those. The ancients talked about sin, which this may be the first time I've talked about it, not sure, but it's an important symbol of the fact that we all have instincts that aren't helpful. And it's not our fault. We're a species that gets triggered. We all have unconscious racism, sexism, that we swallow the propaganda of the culture. It's not our fault, but we are enmeshed in it. We're triggered by these things. And so the ancients were trying to figure out, we want to change the whole world, but if I don't change my heart, I just wind up fighting, right? And I become exactly like what I'm trying to fight. So it has to be both and. I can't retreat off and just pray for the world and look at myself in the mirror. People need me. But it's also not on my shoulders. There's something larger happening. So I'm simply playing a small role in this larger thing. But to realize there's no wall that you can build in America that's going to make people feel safe if they're afraid of people different than them. Understand there's no military budget that will make a nation of fearful people into the home of the brave. Is that what we call ourselves? And there's no speech or law that's going to set a people free that's addicted to so many things. I mean, I'm not going to list my whole list, but caffeine for sure, social media, work, their emotional states we get addicted to. So what it's talking about is both changing the world, but also changing us first. And that's actually good news. What Jesus does to the followers is after a little bit of time of teaching, he takes them away from the city, away from religion, away from philosophy and all of those things, takes them out into nature and says, consider the birds of the air, consider the fish. I don't think he said that one. Consider the flowers. But he liked fish. He does it in the extra canonical books, talks about fish. I forget sometimes I'm a Presbyterian minister. Sorry about that. But here's the thing. The first thing he does coming out of the gate is give us a different definition of happiness. That's what the Beatitudes are. And he's saying something that Americans need to hear. Now, if you don't care about the brutalization of other people, then you're fine anyway. So then you may want to go ahead and get refreshments. But if this is tearing your heart out to watch nature and watch species being wiped out, to know there are children in Flint, Michigan that are drinking poison, if that's tearing your heart out, Jesus is going to reframe that. And this is very, very important for us to hear. He says, blessed are you if you can still grieve. What if you didn't feel the pain? What if it wasn't affecting you that our world is being poisoned? What if everybody approved of you and you didn't get in any kind of trouble at all because you didn't stand for anything? Blessed are you if people are really mad at you and uncomfortable with you because you're talking about justice. Because that's what love looks like in public. You know, that's been said. When you do the math and say, I don't just say I love you, I also look at what your human needs are. And I protect them, I protect you. That's a part of love. He says, blessed are you if you're suffering for that. You could have shut down. He's saying there's a revolution that is happening. He called it the kingdom. But the parables and all the teachings are about what the world could be like if love governed the day. And he's saying your pain, the pain that you feel, is a sign that your heart is still alive. Your prophetic heart is still beating. And if that wounded humanity is the starting place for the new age. Blessed are you if you're, it says, hungry in spirit, poor in spirit, means in solidarity with the poor. It's not as comfortable, but your heart is intact. You're feeling the interconnectedness of things. This woman that I was talking about, who's non-theistic, Jennifer, I just really enjoyed reading her. She says, without God, I'm more aware of how my actions affect others and affect my surroundings. I don't expect God to save our planet, so now I'm more careful about what I throw away and I eat less meat. I don't expect God to save humanity, so now I speak out against hate and I try to be more patient and loving with my fellow human beings. When tragedy comes, I don't send thoughts and prayers. I give hugs and meals and help when I can. Now, what I want to suggest is that is exactly what Christmas is trying to say. That this miraculous birth is not just about Jesus. It's about how the sacred is born into your life. That this is the punchline. This is why it says, "O come, Emmanuel." God is everywhere. So if you don't feel like God is in your life, it's because you're not here, right? But it's not about believing in a being. For some of you, that's how you symbolize it. But it's talking about your relationship to it all, to life, to nature, to the cosmos. When you are here, that is here too. So it's a prayer that the sacred will be born through you. It's Mary's prayer in the text, but it's your prayer here and now in this day, that you would open yourself for that to happen. The word day spring is kind of rare, but it's related to the word for resurrection. It's when a star or the sun rises. It's sunrise, a star rise, but it's also an uprising of the people. So it's looking at our human situation within a cosmic frame, where you can respond to the crises of your day and still be joyful and happy and appreciate this day of life and this moment of consciousness. When it talks about the branch, I've seen Hebrew scholars that said that's the rays of light coming from a new day. So the day spring is dawn. Do you remember Martin Luther King, that great speech where he says, I've been on the mountaintop. I may not be able to go there with you, but that doesn't matter now. See, that's the peace that the heart finds when we let the sacred happen through us. He was living a larger story, a longer story than he'd been taught as a child. The Christmas story invites us to join that great story, that deeper life, the deeper living. And it means you stop identifying with your biography and you start identifying with your character, what you stand for however long. That's where your joy is. That's where your sense of self-value is. That's where your home is. In the story of Mary giving birth, it's very hard for people 2,000 years later to look at a story and get the impact of it. For us as scientific people, we look at the virgin birth as a story about some kind of miraculous thing where God goes on a date with Mary and she has a kid, which is beautiful. So if you, but at the time, they had heard those stories all the time. What would be shocking and scandalous to them is that God was working through a peasant girl. And that's what the Hebrew says. It's a peasant girl. It's going to be this branch, this link of humankind to the movement of God into human history. The entire symbol system is not about believing in real supernatural beings. You can do that if that's what works for you. But if it doesn't work for you, you're just as much a part of the story. Because it's about the sacred working through us. And you get to decide what that is. What you have reverence for is the sacred. And you know it's a symbol. And I'm about to prove it to you, even though you think I'm full of peanut butter right now. What do they say to name the child in the scripture? You shall name the child. Oh, it's Presbyterians, I forgot. I'm sorry. Emmanuel. I thought at least knowing the hymn was coming up would be enough to take away. What do they name the child? Jesus. Good. So we got one person that went to seminary. That's good. That's good. But here's the point. If in the story it literally says to name the kid Emmanuel, and they call the child Jesus, it tells you this is not to be understood literally. It's not even about Jesus, it's about you and me. You are the child of God on this day. And even if you don't believe in God, you are the child of the cosmos. Whatever the metaphor is, that you realize you are a gift to the universe. And that is what your heart longs for. Something worth giving yourself for. If you weren't going to die, capitalism would make all kinds of sense. Right? Whoever winds up with the most toys wins. But you're going to die. That's not going to mean anything to you at the end. What you've emptied yourself to, if that was your highest value, that's what's going to feel good. So that's the story. That's why it can be a song of joy while Herod still reigns, while the dictator still reigns. This is Isaiah saying, O come, Emmanuel, and ransom captive Israel, that mourns in lonely exile here. That's the current state until the one of God appears. Rejoice, rejoice, Emmanuel shall come to you, O Israel. If this worked under Herod, why can't it work under Trump? Or whoever, because let's face it, if most of the popular Democrats win, it's not going to be that much different for the marginal. For you and me, it will be. It'll be hugely different. but for the wretched of the earth, we all need to do better. We need to be reborn. There needs to be an idea of a new kind of kingdom that translates and revamps the world. Salvation could save us from hell, but it can't save us from fear. Even if you lifted me out of hell, I would still be afraid until I learn courage, which is a spiritual virtue. Salvation could overturn an unjust government. But if I've embodied that injustice as to who I am and what a human being is, if I'm triggered by another person's cruelty to be cruel, I need to awaken. I need to come alive. I need to be healed of that. So what Jesus is saying is your pain, your despair at the world, means your heart is still alive. The fact that you care, the fact that you grieve, the fact that other people's poverty keeps you up at night, that means your prophetic heart is still beating. And the good news is that this new world is going to be born out of each of our broken hearts. I invite you now to your own reflection on these words.